Hello and welcome to America Latina Story. It is a rare book that we will be talking about today. Rare because written in the 1950s by a young man in his 20s. My Amazon adventure was never translated nor reprinted. Rare also because it deals with the first descent of the Amazon from its source to its mouth, with the crossing of the terrible Pongos of its upper reaches. At the time, Sebastian Snow is 21 years old. Coming from a wealthy background, he does not know what to do with his life and responds to a classified ad looking for adventurers ready for anything. He soon finds himself with his companion, an enigmatic John Brown, on a liner en route to Peru. The mission of this pair is to locate with certainty the source of the Amazon. Snow will remain on site for 2 months, doing all the necessary scientific surveys, while Brown will travel the surrounding country to make sure that there is no alternative to the birthplace of the Great River. Let us take this opportunity to recall that the exact location of the Amazon's source, also that of the Marañón from which it comes, was discovered in 1942 by a French expedition headed by Bertrand Flournoy. Nowadays, the birthplace of the Amazon has been called into question by putting forward other parameters, and the source of the Ucayali, a stream longer than the Marañón but with less water volume, is often preferred as the founding watercourse of the Amazon. Nicolas Sanson d'Abbeville, Father Samuel Fritz, La Condamine, Humboldt, Jules Crevaux, Antonio Raimondi, and many others, as famous and reliable, have always considered the Marañón as the father of the Amazon because of the size of its basin, its general direction, and the preponderance of its waters at the confluences. However, today the Amazon has de facto 2 birthplaces. Let us close the parenthesis and resume with the wise men of yesteryear, the descent of the Marañón and then of the Amazon. Snow tells us about his daily activities in a semi-Arctic setting 5,000 meters above sea level near the equator. We are at the junction of the 3 main cordilleras that runs north to south through Latin America. It feels like the north of Scotland in winter. Snow lives in an oval of stone and straw from which he regularly climbs out for his surveys. Snow describes the little visited neighboring regions, the many mines that dot the high valleys, and the harsh life of the numerous Europeans who work there. It is in this context that he gradually matures his project to descend the Great River to return home. His journey along the High Marañón is made of short hops, from village to village, from hacienda to hacienda, presenting to the local authorities letters of introduction obtained from the ministries of Lima, which enabled him to get the loan of a mule, the temporary escort of a kid without shoes. And as always in these stories set in South America, we meet men and women, and houses lost in the most unlikely corners, to the point that one wonders how they got there and on what and how they can live. At one point, our author crosses the region of Verruga, a land infected by a strange disease whose main symptom is an efflorescence of warts caused by mosquitoes. Then he crosses the Puna district, a country where it is not good to camp, nor to stop if you do not want to catch the worst bronchial diseases. The author finally arrives at this point of the Marañón River, which marks the beginning of the 50 or so kilometers of successive Pongos as the stream crosses the folds of the Cordilleras, descending towards the vast and flat Amazonian forest. The description of the passage of these rapids alone is worth reading the book. Pongos are geographic formations typical of Upper Peru and the tumultuous rivers that cross the Cordilleras. A Pongo is an opening, a breach more or less long and narrow, more or less inclined, in a wall of a rocky fold where enormous masses of water rush violently to bounce on the rocks and the embedded tree trunks to form dangerous whirlpools of sometimes Dantesque size. To quote from the book, "The roar of this rapid, strewn with reefs, reminded me of the crashing noise of an underground train coming into a station. It must not be forgotten that waters made up of several important rivers, often descending from 6,000 meters in altitude, came together for more than 1,000 kilometers to rush with enormous force through this gap. The most famous Pongos are the Retema, the Neuvo, the Aromunga, the Mayasi, the Escumbre-Bragas, and the last and most famous of all, inside a narrow 10-kilometer canyon through the Cordillera Oriental, the Manseriche. We learn everything about the construction of the balsa rafts that alone allow the passage of the rapids. Any rigid boat, breaking quickly and inexorably. And how the lianas of wild vines are used to connect the balsa trunks because they alone are flexible enough to allow the raft to twist and bend to the demands of currents and countercurrents. At this point, Snow was fortunate enough to meet an exceptional rapid navigator in the person of Camarillo, who agreed for a salary to accompany him on his descent down the river to Iquitos. The Pongos are crossed one after the other, each time with a lot of emotion and suspense. Between the Pongos, the landscape has changed. The river is most often calm like the water of a puddle, and the banks formed by high tropical rainforests. It is the land of the Aguarana head hunters. This country, located on the border of lost places, is also marked by the alternation of military posts and missions. Two very different armies facing the perils of the unknown. One to protect the bodies, the other one the souls. Snow and his companion Camarillo finally entered the Manseriche. We were now in the rapid. It is a canyon in the strictest sense. High, green jungle-clad cliffs rise up to a height of perhaps 1,000 feet. They do not, however, meet overhead as some previous travelers have suggested. It is a combination of whirlpools and currents. To give the idea of the power and magnitude of the great whirlpool in the middle of the canyon, I read that someone, when making a passage through in a canoe, saw a tree of 150 feet in length float down and get caught in the great whirlpool. It was turned slowly round and round in ever smaller circles until it was forced to stand up on end 150 feet above the water and disappear down the vortex, never to be seen again. After a breathless crossing, Snow and his companion Camarillo leave the Manseriche unarmed and continue their navigation towards Iquitos and Brazil. It is then the calm of the still waters, the thousands of mosquitoes, and a land where the most violent crimes are rife. Snow shares the picturesque nature of his brave stay in Iquitos and the fortnight of his cruise on a steamer to reach Belém, Pará, and the Atlantic. The book ends with a warm tribute to all those Peruvians he met during the 9 months of his journey that enabled him to fulfill his dream. Thank you for watching this program. Do not hesitate to subscribe to the channel. This is all for now. Goodbye.